Today, I want to talk to you about possibly one of the most harmful mentalities that you can have around starting and growing your own business, which unfortunately is also at the same time one of the most common mentalities that I see in new and growing entrepreneurs. This is based on just my own personal experience of building this business and having at this point helped fairly personally, at least well over 1,000 entrepreneurs and new entrepreneurs, not to mention having helped thousands of others through my courses as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share what that mentality is, and then I'm going to give you 3 of the most common areas where I see it coming up so we can talk about how to shift it, how to identify if you have it, which you might not even be aware of right now, and how to really turn it around to be much more impactful and help you grow your business faster. If you're new here, hi, I'm Luisa Zhou, and this channel is all about helping you build and grow your own business to create massive freedom, impact, and abundance. With that, let's talk about what that mentality is. And it's what I like to call all or nothing mentality. Obviously, I did not make up the term, but really, I haven't found a phrase that describes it better than this. It's either like, you know how we're taught in school, either you pass or you fail, you did really good, or you suck. Basically, I mean, growing up in a typical Asian home, that's what I was taught. You either got the A+ or you kind of sucked, which is a whole other thing in of itself we can talk about another day, but it really is that mentality where I'm sure there's a part of your life where you have that familiarity with that attitude as well. Unfortunately, because so many of us are raised this way, and it's kind of fairly common in our society, right? You're either a success or you're not. You're either doing really well in your career or you're not. Again, that all or nothing mentality that most of us are in some way, shape, or form taught translates often without us realizing it into when we are starting and growing our own businesses as well. And it's incredibly negative because honestly, it holds you back from realizing and making even more progress. So let me give you, again, 3 of the most common examples where I see this coming up so that we can talk about how to shift it. The first category where I see this coming up is the all or nothing mentality of either I hit my sales goal this month or whatever time period, and I'm amazing, I feel amazing about my business, or it's not meant to be and it's not going to happen and I'm just going to fail. I'm not cut out to be an entrepreneur. So the truth of that is, what people miss a lot of the time is the whole gray area between the either you made no sales or you made all the sales you wanted. Part of it is setting the right goals, right? A lot of the time people set really aggressive goals that they don't even really believe that they can hit, just so that they can say, look, self, I was right. I proved myself right. I can't do this. And so let me just feel bad about myself. Again, that's a whole other topic that we could go into and we probably will later on, but I want to touch on that and then come back to this main thing, which is the black or white or all or nothing, black or white mentality of the didn't hit my sales goal. And so I see it a lot, especially when someone's saying, okay, I want to, hit my first 5K or 10K or 20K or 30K or maybe even 100K a month. And so it happens all along the spectrum. You might think there comes a time when this doesn't apply. Not so much. And so if you are thinking that oh my gosh, I didn't hit my goal, things aren't working, this is failing, and I did even worse this month than I did the previous month, and this is just not going to happen. First, let's call that out, see if there's part of you that's doing that, and realize what's going on is a couple of things. First, you are equating that hitting of that financial goal to interpreting your success. Either you hit it and you're going to be successful, or you didn't hit it and you're not going to be. When in reality, we know that's not how life or business or anything works. There could be so many reasons why you didn't hit it, from you didn't really set a goal you believed in, to maybe it was a little bit too aggressive, to maybe there was just some variance going on, to a whole bunch of other factors. And so if you are thinking that, if you're equating hitting any goal, whether it's sales goal, an audience goal, or anything along those lines to your success, then what you want to do is identify it. And instead of noting that either I hit it and I'm successful or I didn't and I'm not, really identify all the things that you did to hit that goal this month. So not just the end results, but the journey, the process that went into it, and identify, okay, what worked well and what didn't. And what you do when you do this is essentially you're not only translating from that end result and whether or not you hit it to meaning something about you, to completely shifting the conversation in your mind to focusing on the actions and the tangible things that led to wherever you got to and where you want to go. The other thing that this does that's also really powerful is it shifts from that all or nothing mentality to a improvement focused mentality, a growth focused mentality, where you're thinking, hey, I did these things and it got me to this point. Maybe it made me no sales, but maybe I got this much engagement, or I grew my audience by this much, and that's improvement over the previous month. Or I didn't make all the sales I wanted, but I made more sales than I made the previous month, and that's better. So I know what to do more of to continue increasing my sales next month. Do you see how there's like a really big difference in all of this? And allows you to really just shift it so that you are looking at it with a much more analytical perspective, with a much more detached perspective, and ultimately in a way that allows you to think about your business as a business versus an extension or a reflection or a measurement of you, which then opens you up to a whole can of worms about your ability to succeed and your fears and your doubts, which will then be proven by you not hitting your results. So that is category number one. Like I said, pretty much every entrepreneur I've ever spoken with or talked to has experienced it at some point. And so hopefully you find that helpful. The second category that I see this happening a lot is that people will come to me and say, I've been working at this thing, whether it's selling a certain thing or a certain skill. And I'll give you a specific example in just a second. And I thought it was going to be easy by now, but it's still hard. So this must not be working, right? So the mentality of basically thinking somehow you go from 0 to 60 with a skill or a thing that you're trying to do. And a specific example is content creation, because for an online business, content creation, for most businesses, online content creation is key. And it's not something that most of us are taught to do fast, to do well, to do in a lot of high volume. And so it's hard for a lot of people, especially when they're starting out. So a common thing I'll see is someone will come to me and say, hey, I've been working on my content creation skills for this amount of time, and I thought it was supposed to have been easier by now, but it's still not. So something must not be working, and I'm really judging myself and beating myself up for not getting it faster. Here's the thing. When you have any sort of skill, right, it's not you don't have it and then you have it and then you're done. What we want to shift to is more of a kind of linear progression type of view of it, where it's more, hey, I am at X point, and then I'm at X point, and then X point, and then this is a path of progression and advancement that can go on for the rest of my life. When you think about athletes, for example, Tiger Woods, barring his, personal stuff, which we don't need to talk about, he is still considered a really great golfer. And so using him as an example, he's never reached a point, and really no great athlete does, or really anybody who considers themselves an athlete version in their own field. He's never said, okay, I'm perfect at golfing. I don't need any more help. I have no more room for improvement and I'm done. It's okay. I've working with a coach, I'm improving this thing, I'm improving this thing, I'm improving this thing. And even though he's really, really good, he still knows he has room for improvement. I use that example because it's kind of fairly obvious, but really it applies to business as well. And really any skill, right? Just like, you can get better at your communication skills no matter how long you've been communicating, maybe how many decades you have under your belt, how much career experience you have. There is always room for improvement. Same thing with any of the skills related in your business: marketing, sales, copywriting, audience building, lead generation. I mean, the list goes on and on. Team management, right? All of those are skills that you will get better and better and better at. So back to the specific example of content creation, because it's just such a common one, instead of thinking, oh, it's still hard when I thought it would be easy by now because I've been at this for a while, what you want to shift it to is to realizing, okay, I actually am a lot better and faster at this than I was a month ago, 2 months ago, 3 months ago when I started, etc. And even though it still feels hard and not easy, I'm noting the progress. Maybe I'm at step 2 now, and now I'm ready to move on to the step 3 of ease and advancement. And I understand that it's just going to get better and better. Again, shifting from that all or nothing mentality, which in this case causes people to judge themselves and be like, oh, I'm just not good at this thing. Like, I'm not good at content creation, and that just means it must be harder for me always. No, understanding that you are getting better at it is just another skill that you have to develop, and you'll get better and better at it over time. Right? Makes a really big difference with how you see yourself, how you feel about yourself, and how motivated you feel to continue working on these skills. I will tell you, I have been creating content almost daily in some way, shape, or form, at least during the weekdays, for about the last 8 years now. Because that's how long I've been running this business. And, I'm a lot better than I was at the very beginning. When I started, it would take me like 3 hours to come up with an idea and write like an email that would be super short. But nowadays, I have so many ideas, and I love especially being on video with you and sharing these things. I will tell you, today at the same time was one of those days where I'd recorded a few videos already, and then I sat around for an hour randomly watching YouTube videos to procrastinate doing this last video, just because as I'm recording it, it's like the end of my day. This is the last thing I have to do. And I was just like, oh, I really don't feel like it. So these things happen is the point that I'm making with this. And again, it's not all or nothing. It's recognizing the progress you've made and then not letting yourself get demotivated. If I had gotten demotivated, in my first year or second year, or my first month or second month because it was hard, versus realizing, you know what, it took me 3 hours to write this, but my first ever email took me 5 hours. So that's improvement. And I'm serious with that example. It's an actual example. Then I would not be here with you today. And frankly, that's true of any successful entrepreneur that you can think of. So that is category number 2. Category number 3, the all or nothing mentality that is really common, is when you are comparing to either someone else or some made up standards in your mind or some made up timeline in your mind that you have to hit, and thinking, I'm not going as fast or as big as that person or that idea that I had in my mind, which means, this is not going to work for me and I'm going to fail. So I'm going to tell you a couple of things. First of all, that segment of time that you just gave yourself to compare to this person or this result that you had in your mind is completely arbitrary. When life doesn't end, nothing is over until it's over. A really common example I like to give nowadays, which, a little bit tongue in cheek, is comparing, for example, Elon Musk to, let's say, Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos. Right? So a few decades ago, Elon Musk was doing really well. He had a few companies under his belt, his first company, and then PayPal. And then, he was a little bit quiet for a while. And you could say, yeah, he was a successful billionaire, but compared to Bill Gates, at the time the richest person in the world, or Jeff Bezos, whose Amazon was really taking off, Elon Musk wasn't doing so well. If he had compared himself in that time frame, right, he would have thought the same thing. Like, maybe I'm not cut out for the big things that I want to do, which is now obvious in hindsight that he wanted to do. Instead, he kept his head down. I'm not saying he's perfect, but in this way, there's something for us to learn here. He kept his head down, right? He focused on where he was going. He did not have that all or nothing mentality. He might have not been going as fast as those other people at that point in time, but he knew it's not over until it's over. And he appreciated the progress that he was making, and he knew where he was going to use it to go. And look at where we are now, at least as of the recording of this video, right? He is about to buy Twitter. He is doing really great financially, at least, and, doing better, you could argue, than Bezos and Gates and whomever. Now, that's not to say in the future that won't change, but that just gives you an example, and it's an extreme one for sure, but it makes it easier to see the point and then bring it back to us. When you set an arbitrary time frame to apply those things to give you that all or nothing meaning, all you're doing is setting yourself up for failure, because growth is not linear. That's part of the beauty of life, right? And it's unpredictable. Just because you're doing well now doesn't mean you're going to do well forever. And conversely, just because you're not going as fast or as big as you think right now does not mean that what you're doing and learning right now is not going to set you up for way bigger growth in the future. So instead of having that all or nothing mentality, oh my gosh, I suck compared to this person or to this timeline I've set for myself, what you want to be thinking about is where you are in comparison to where you used to be, and how where you are right now is setting you up for that ultimate goal that you have which is possibly even bigger than all of these things that you're comparing yourself to. So hopefully you remember that analogy or that story when this comes up, because I know it comes up for pretty much everybody in some way, shape, or form, myself included. So with that, those are 3 of the most common areas where I see this. Now, speaking of harmful mentalities, there are so many common things that we're taught, unfortunately, that just set you up for kind of failure as an entrepreneur. So with that, if you have found this really helpful, I have another video on 4 thoughts that successful entrepreneurs never think, but unfortunately, again, most of us are taught. So if you want to know what those 4 thoughts are and how to reframe them and stop them in their tracks so that you can start thinking and acting and being a successful entrepreneur, or an even more successful one, I'll put that video for you somewhere on the screen, and I will see you over there.